Before Wolf fell asleep, he told me that he had traveled into eternity at immense speed. He became awfully poetic and philosophical and said, "At the lower speed of angels, but not as fast as light." Finally, he closed his eyes with the famous words of Alex, "Don't live with lies," or something like that. I felt indifferent to the whole matter. The issue was this: something's got to be done because something had to give, at least 77 years ago, that I now know about. The other matter that plagues my mind is the beauty of Romy found in the painting of Dina. Why is her beauty so important in order for the world to know? If the world knew her beauty, said my friend Wolf, then this would impel a movement greater than the scientists could ever dream of, and one which the resetters probably wanted to think that they started for themselves. A result that could affect the eternity that Wolf had traveled and experienced for himself. I've wanted to ask Wolf more questions, but the information he gave also agitated my spirit. I was irate at the point that he made. Quote, they wanted Vanya's uranium, but more so, they stole Romy's brothers, her sister, and her friends. The fact that Dina remained alive and survived after the wars was another question that I pondered. I also thought to myself whether or not Wolf might just be ranting before his death. I also knew that when he had taken part in the assassination attempt of the self-acclaimed fearless one, I knew that maybe a lot of information was getting jumbled together, but he was also too old, but also too educated for these seemingly cryptic messages. He was leaving me all of these things before the end of his days here on this planet. His cute nurse gave me a journal, and what I'm telling you now must be exposed with as best of a translation as I can from his native father tongue, just like Wolf would have wanted, and why Diedrich gave his journal too, and before Diedrich became a martyr. Before his journal was burned by the Omegians in order to accommodate the peoples and their short attention spans. I will now read you the first entry from Wolf's journal, dated April 9th, 1945 AD. What I have written I am compelled to write, because a friend was hung today. I am certain that our sin as a country that was promised the same blessings as Israel of old, as the Israel of God, has now become an abomination which devastates, and has now become more so desolated. We have been Babylon, Berlin. Now Babylon is fallen. I noticed in Scripture this morning that the ancient text is not so ancient in its breadth and in its literalness. Babylon is fallen. This is past tense, and now I believe that the hope is almost lost, and with this our people are now going into captivity as Israel of old, and our enemies are now chosen by God to be the nation we were once promised to be, and hold our heritage dear. We were to be a nation more glorious as the ones before, but our country has become drunk on the maddening wine of the great whore, now staggering, now blind. My friend, you certainly did not die in vain. Your spirit has risen, and now you are in the second resurrection. Both saints and angels greeted you when you entered into the kingdom of our God. Our eternity present is indeed become manifest. My only fear is that I might need to drink the same cup which you have, the same cup which he has. What information I now carry is my burden. God help us. God help me, your child now weakened by the knowledge of beauty and adversity. Wolf wrote this as his first journal entry. Now my memory is fading, so you'll have to forgive me. The question is, now what am I to do? Now that I know that Romy's family is still lost to the memory of man, but of course not to history. History is never forgotten. As the prophet wrote, the books will be opened. There is one thing that is never taken away from us, and something the resetters could never control, and that is speech. Speech is God-given. It's when words are written down that I fear. They could become auto-ignited. The resetters love talking about this, much of the apparent irony that they've made in themselves.